Back to my channel. Today we have one in the series where I'm going to show how you can use gel prints or collage papers in your mixed media art journaling projects. So here is a selection of gel prints. Now some have white borders because the page is bigger than the gel plate and some don't. And don't worry about that because we're going to show you a workaround. So today we are going to use one of these gel prints to create the start of a mini zine, which is like a mini art journal or a mini booklet or alternative greeting card. Now this one is on recycled paper, and that's okay because that underside we are not going to see. So the first thing you want to do is fold this. So you're going to fold it hot dog style, and then you're going to fold it hamburger style, which is in half this way. Match the corners. You can use a bone folder. It's really helpful if you get a nice sharp fold. It's just going to make it go together easier. And then you do I'm not sure what this one's called, a mini hamburger, hot dog hamburger fold. Basically, you want to divide this page into 8 equal sections. And I'm going to go back and fold it again just to make sure I get a really sharp fold. Time spent here will help you out. Now, we have a white border here, and I will be showing you how to deal with that. So right now I want to cut in the middle. I want to see what these pages are going to look like. So before I glue everything together, I am just going to cut from the middle to the first intersection. Now the colored side is a little bit distracting, so I'm just going to go and do it on the underside. And I'm just marking, I'm going to cut to that intersection from the middle. Then we are going to fold this. Just going to pop open just like you see here. Now it might be a little stiff and you might have to work it into shape, and then you're going to sharpen those folds so that it stays in this little booklet. And this way you can flip through and see what your pages look like. Now, I'm not really happy with that white edge. I think it's distracting and I don't know what to do with it. Now I could continue and glue the book together and paint it out later, and as I do each page separately, or I can do it now. So I'm choosing to do it now. Now I have alizarin crimson and dioxazine purple, and I'm just mixing them, and basically I'm getting the colors that are on this gel print. Go as close as you can, match your paints, and if you're not sure, try them out. Now I'm applying color with the makeup sponge. Now I could just colorize that white border. Remember, this was just the first layer. I plan on adding stamping and stenciling to this, so I could have left the middle section. But I do end up going over most of it with the alizarin crimson or the dioxazine purple or the combination of them. And they make a lovely color combo, violety color when they mix. So if you haven't tried out that color combo, give it a try. It's beautiful. So I'm just putting color wherever. Now I could have left a lot of this white on there, and depending on your gel print, you may choose to do that. Now colorizing the border is also something that you can do if you were using this as an Insta background and there was that white border and you needed it a little bit bigger. So don't let the size of the gel print deter you, because you can always tweak it, add. So now that I'm happy with the base color, I'm making sure that this is dry, and I'm going to start adding some pattern and interest to this background. Because right now, while I'm going to turn this into Mini-Zine, I'm going to do the background. So I look at the patterning that's on the gel print. So we've gotten the color scheme from the gel print, and now we're getting some of the pattern. And I love these waves, so I'm going to add more waves. So this is a DIY cube stamp that I created, and I'll put a link to that video in case you're interested in making your own mark making and stamps. And I'm just adding some white here for contrast. I need to add more interest to this background. I grabbed this ethereal stencil, which is one of my favorites, and I'm stenciling in it with white, and it's too insignificant. There's no bang here, so I table it. Then I grab this 4 feathers stencil, and I'm stenciling with, here it's white gesso, so it's a little transparent. You can see through it. It's not, I do switch in the middle here to white acrylic paint, which is more opaque. Now at this stage, I have no idea what I'm going to put on here in the way of focal images. I'm just focused on adding some pattern. And when you have a colored background, it's nice to pick a stencil that has more open space, maybe not as big as this feather one, and stencil with that as one of the first layers. And once again, my favorite application tool is the makeup sponge. This is just dollar store makeup sponge. I'm making some of these feathers. Now remember, we're going to fold this up like we saw at the beginning. This is going to be 8 different pages or 4 different pages, depending on how I want to finish it. So I'm flipping the stencil, I'm turning it, making those feathers point different directions. I just want to build interest into the background. You can see some of the feathers are more opaque, more white, and some are less. And that just adds interest. But again, we're not going to see this as a whole page that you see here. We're going to see it in quarters. And it's always interesting to stencil going off the page. And here I'm just going back and I'm adding more white paint. I want it a little bit more opaque. Now folding it first allows you to kind of see the different sections, and it might help with placement. Sometimes then you overthink it then, and that actually causes you problems. So you got to figure out what works best for you. So the gel print that we started with, that is our starting point, our jump off point. It guided us in our color choices so we don't have to overthink it, and it gave us some hint of pattern. Now I grabbed some turquoise because I'm thinking that would be a nice contrast to this page. And I grabbed a stencil that was right on my table, but it's again rather insignificant. So because everything is acrylic paint underneath and it's permanent, I can wipe it off with a baby wipe. I'm liking that type of pattern, but I grabbed my Retroburst stencil, and this is one of my favorite. Do you see how it shows differently where we did the white feathers? And that's one of the advantages of putting the white stenciling first with the larger scale stencil. because now it gives us a backdrop for some, so other colors can shine through. You can see how that Retroburst stencil really shows up where the white is and less so where the pink is or where the purple is. And this is starting that layering process. We're not actually going to do physical layering, but we are layering because every layer we add pushes whatever's behind it further behind. Now that this is folded, I can push it together to see what my pages are looking like. Do I like them? I could have done all of this without cutting it, without folding it. And when I looked, I said, oh, I'm going to add some Retroburst stencil over here. I'm going to do this. So I'm looking and I'm thinking, am I done? Is this enough? Remember, this is a fairly small project, so you don't want to have too much. So I'm going to fold it up and look at my pages. Do I like what I'm seeing? Now with the stenciling, I'm doing things that are different scales. Some are larger, some are smaller, and that gives some interest. Checking out stamps, and thinking, what do I want to add? And I decided I want to add a little bit of black, and this is, I believe it's Heart and Club and Company. It's a Stamperia stamp from the craft, or from Stamperia, and I purchased at Ninny's Napkins. You can also get the TCW stencils at Ninny's Napkins, as well as other art journaling and mixed media things. There's a coupon code down below. I'm just adding a little bit of that black in there because I'm thinking I'm going to put a sentiment on there and it's going to have black. So I want something in the background that has black. Now I also want some bling. So I'm going to splatter when this is the whole page, because it's a whole lot easier to do this, let it dry once, than doing all those individual pages and waiting for drying time in between. So you can see how we took that gel print and we used it as a jump start to a background that we are going to turn into this mini art journal or mini zine. So now I'm folding it again, pushing so I know that it's all going to fold properly. And you do have some flexibility about which one you choose for the cover. So now I grab my glue stick. Usually I use Elmer's, but this one is from Staples. And it works quite well. And you want a good application of this right to the edges. Now you got to work quickly and you got to be careful because now we need to fold it. And remember, it's all sticky. You push it in and make sure that you've got good contact. Now, accept the fact that it's not going to be perfect. Use the bone folder to make sure you've got great contact. And I'm loving the look. You can cut off a little bit and straighten it if it really bothers you. And you can go back in and make sure that you've got good adhesion. You got it all glued down. No matter how I try, I always seem to have edges that I need to go back and touch up. Make lots of these, have the backgrounds there, and then do the next steps later. And I love this. It's all the same colors, but every page is a little unique, a little different. Now I've decided that I'm going to use this Flutter stamp from Stampers Anonymous. There are 9, 10 butterflies. They are the perfect size for a mini-zine or for ATCs. I've stamped them with black acrylic paint and I've cut them out, and then I'm just sampling them on the pages. I want something different on each page, and I want the arrangement to be different. So while the theme is the same and the colors are the same, I want to build in some differentiation. So I'm going to continue to cut them out. I have a whole bunch in my stash because when I stamp a lot, and then I keep them in my stash to make it easier. Here I stored them in the plastic pouch with the stamp. And here you'll see that I've left a border of white just so it stands out a little bit more against my busy background. Here, so I had one on that page. Here I have 2, and I'm putting them in the middle. And when I'm auditioning it, I'm just using a little bit of painter's tape to position it, just so I get a look of what it looks like, and then I can judge whether I like it or not. Now I don't want the feather, I don't want that really to be noticeable, so I can put the focal image on top. And here I've got 3 butterflies. So again, I want to build in some difference on each one, and then the back and the front. These mini zines make good alternatives to greeting cards. You can switch up the sentiment and make it very personal for the person that you're giving it to. And you can see how the black of the butterflies works well with that stamping of that heart and club. And I'm just continuing to addition it until I'm sure here's where I want things to go. So I'm looking at my sentiment packs, and this one, short and sweet, has single words and short phrases that is perfect for mini zines, for ATCs, for iCads, which are index card size. There's a lot of variety there. So I've printed those off and I've selected some. And now I'm going to glue everything down. Now, just a word about those sentiment packs. They are available at Ninny's Napkins. They are digital downloads. You can print them off as many times as you like, and you can resize them. So if you want to use these same sayings on a regular size art journal page, you can do that. You can also shrink them down. And while these aren't on sticker paper, if you print on sticker paper, you just have peel and stick. I'm using fluid matte medium from Liquitex to glue this down. I buy it in bulk to change the price point, but I prefer it to Mod Podge. I find Mod Podge, I don't like the smell, and it doesn't quite go as matte as the fluid matte medium from Liquitex. But use whatever adhesive you wish. Simplify is my 2022 word of the year. And I'll put a link to that video. You could also use a glue stick to glue them down and then cover them with matte medium if that's your way. I cut off the excess. I had some butterflies that went over the edge. And now I'm going to edge all the pages. And I'm using the Ranger blending foam and black acrylic paint. This just finishes it off and frames each page separately. Now the inner pages, I have like one page per, there's 2 sections on one page. I could have made those individual as well if that's, mini zines are a great way to use some of those smaller stamps. You can see the difference that black edging does. It really adds a lot to your project. Now I'm grabbing my black Posca pen and I'm outlining the sentiments just to make it stand out a little bit more. This is all part of that finishing process. And then I grab the white Posca pen and I'm adding stitch work around. Now remember, I put the black edging and that's helping the white stand out. Now my Posca, I didn't shake it, and so it's not quite as opaque. As I progress on each page, I'm actually getting the paint. So make sure you shake it up. So I'm edging, I did the stitch work on all of them, but I wanted the butterflies to stand out a little bit more. So I am shading with white around the edge. This is softening the butterflies and making them stand out from the background. You could have done this with black, but I just wanted to make it light and ethereal looking. So I chose to do it with white. You could also use a color if that's what you wished to use. But I like that soft, ethereal kind of look. So I'm going to shade around the butterflies on each section and add the stitch work with my white Posca pen and give it a dry in between. Now I could have taken that page, cut it into 4, and you made 4 art journal pages. If you don't like the mini zine, you could follow the steps and just cut it into a different size and do it that way. You can see here that the white Posca pen is way more opaque. Now I'm looking at it and there's a few places where I wish I had some retrobursts. You can always go in and tweak it to make it perfect. Now that you have all the other components, you can always go in. I have close-ups of all the finished pages. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe to my channel. Click on the to get notified of upcoming videos. And you won't miss the next in this series. Use those gel prints or collage papers. Until next time, go get creative.